Significant audience, I would like to thank again the presenters, Brian, Moji, and Ato Maha for that insightful presentation. So because we have an audience of about 25 to 30 who have been patient in listening, we will give a chance for the audience to very brief comments and questions, not more than 2 minutes, just to remind the audience. And when they speak, it would only be in relation to the topics that we are discussing on the legality issues involved with internet shutdown. So if you can raise your hand so that I can see. I see one, Mr. Abdissa, and then we go with Elias. So Mr. Abdissa, if you can make your comments very brief to the speakers, I will give you 1 to 2 minutes, please. Go ahead, Ato Abdissa.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mesenbet, for giving me such opportunity. I'm Abdissa Bancha Jarra, IT specialist, also the coordinator for Crowdsource Ethiopia on Google, 5 Ethiopian languages on Google. And this is very interesting start up for ISOC, because we was waiting for such opportunity to have to participate in our internet society, to contribute for our community, because there is a challenge and as well as opportunities through internet nowadays in the world, because the world is coming up to the global globalization as well as digitalization coming together to interact and just for the internet.
Mr. Abdissa, if you can go to the
when I come to my question, according to why the internet will be down, as well as why and who can do as the time they want, or as the procedure of the ISOC, as well as there is different challenges we can raise. Really thank you, Mr. Maha, for detailed explanation, as well as the African, other African country as example. So when we raised the issue, what the action should be taken for the community aware creation is very important as well. I think in the government top official, the awareness is very low. As my understanding, the government top officials are very the crucial point we have to focus, the concerning body should be focused, as well as there is currently internet is acting for business, right? For the nowadays there is a YouTubers, there is a social media who can propagate the false information. So the administration may take the measure for to handle that issue. Even the administration didn't know the procedure to handle the false information, the procedure to, for example, currently.
Mr. Abdissa, you will have to excuse me because I have notified you that you have only 2 minutes. So if you can just wrap up, we have like about 25, 26 participants. So
okay, thank you. Facebook as a procedure. If someone posted the destructive content, example, taking a measure of something within 10 minutes or within 1 hour, the Facebook company will inform the government or the administrative body to handle that destructive measure to be proposed in coming
Thank you.
2
Thank
3
you.
minutes. So that's how the management should be aware of managing things, taking the internet down as well, internet management and something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abisa. Sorry for rushing you because I have notified, because we have a number of speakers. Just limit your questions to 1 or 2 minutes, please. So I will give to the second speaker, Worko, I think. Was it? Elias, yes. Worko, please.
Okay, thank you all for the presenters. I am Elias from Media and Communications Department. Thank you, Dr. Mesenbet. I have 2 questions. I am very much interested on the presentations. I have questions on the issues of proportionality and necessity on internet shutdown. Yes, it's known that in undemocratic countries, the internet shutdown particularly has been serving as a monopoly of weapon for government to silence opposition voices. But on the other side, there are also arguments that this medium, this internet has been used as for different kinds of misinformation. For example, with issues of, for example, there are some cases of exam leaks, examination leaks before some years back. So students were very much psychologically affected that the exam has been leaked. So in such cases, how it's possible to treat in terms of necessity and proportionality to shut down the internet? So how is it treated? My second question is, there are many internet service providers engaging or entering the market, and there is no that much binding agreement between the state or the communication state authority and the telecom operator. So in such cases, there could be some form of violating net neutrality, established net neutrality available worldwide. So how it is possible also possible to manage such kinds of things in order for the citizen to access the internet with equitably and fairly? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ato Elias. We appreciate your presence also. Thank you. So third speaker is Abtamu. Please, Ato Abtamu, I will give you a chance to speak. And make it brief, please. Ato Abtamu.
Yes?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mesenbet. I would like to thank you before. First of all, I was very impressed by the presentations. Fortunately, Dr. Mesenbet was my examiner during my test defense at Addis Ababa University. So I am happy to meet you again. So my idea is I have 1 comment and 2 questions. The first one is the overall presentation was too nice, especially the challenges that was presented by Mr. Ammaha. One of the challenge that impressed me was that lack of awareness, as many of us now, internet shutdown, the concept of internet shutdown and the digital rights are newly emerging concepts at global level and at domestic level. So doing more on this issue is very critical and it's very important. Having said this, my question is, first question is that Mr. Amha raised many challenges, especially in relation to Ethiopia, the absence of enabling legal environment and the practical challenges. But my question is that what is the global trend is in addressing these challenges? What global trends look like, especially foreign experiences and international practices? This is my first question. The second question is that if it's related, currently we are there is some emerging concepts, artificial intelligence, that has great impacts on the right to privacy and other rights. So is there any relation between access to an interrupted internet, interrupted and affordable internet, and artificial intelligence? How we can relate these two concepts? Thank you.
You are mute. Who is muted? Mesenbet?
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry. So we have these questions. So maybe regarding the first round, comments and questions, you can respond. But Dr. Asrat has also a hand raised, so I'll give him first if he wants to make remarks, and then you can go to the question and respond, please.
Dr. Mesenbet, thank you. I just want to raise a couple of questions that are sent to the question and answer. May I go on, Dr. Mesenbet?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. There are around 3 or 4 questions. When I summarize them, they are into 2 groups. One of them is like this. The government is responsible, to secure the peace of the people. And when there is some kind of protests which raised due to some reason, okay, and through the internet as a platform is used by different, individuals to escalate it. So isn't the government responsible to de-escalate by shutting down the internet? That's one of the questions. The other one, how do you, make responsible telco companies or ISPs while the government is forcing them or pushing them to shut down the internet? These are the 2 questions I have collected from the Q&A session. I will provide mine later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Asrat, for capturing that. I was looking at some of the comments, but because you're mixed, I think it's good that you collected those. So maybe the speakers, in any order, any of you can respond to the comments and questions. Maybe before that, I will just abuse my power as chair. Emoji, if you can, because this is very important. I know that you have highlighted some of the key contentious issues in the cases, but if you briefly can summarize, yes, it was internet shutdown issue, but what was the positions of government? What was the ruling? Very briefly on the 2 cases that you mentioned. Yeah, thank you. Very briefly.
Okay, I mentioned for the Togo case, for instance, that one of the issues brought before the court was to protect the security of the nation. That was what they raised in that particular Togo case, and in the Twitter case as well. Unfortunately, in the Guinea case, the government didn't show up at all. But what I'm trying to say is they keep raising the issue of security of the nation to guard against violence, and there was one that Nigerian government used to protect the corporate existence of Nigeria. And I was wondering, how does the social media disrupt the corporate existence of Nigeria? Anyways, but and the court was very specific in that the extreme of a government shutting down a particular social media, it is not commensurate to what the legitimate aim that they try to protect. So that's just the basic idea, right? That you have to understand that you violate the right to freedom of expression when you do not give people access to their internet. That is it. And also, if you now take from that, you can also include the right to freedom of assembly and freedom of association. And someone was saying something, and I think I can use this opportunity to now address the person. The issue of telecommunications, that's telcos, that position is very delicate. It's delicate because they have been recognized as intermediaries. And to get intermediaries liable is very complex. It's complex in the sense that, for me, if I want to make an argument, I'll say, well, without me, the MTN, for instance, MTN is operating in Nigeria. Without my money, without my subscription, MTN cannot function. That's what I would think. But yet, we should look at it from the other perspective too. Without the government's license, MTN cannot even operate in the first place in Nigeria. So when government gives them instruction and says shut down the telecommunications or shut down the internet, they lean more to the government because they look at it that without the government in the first place, they cannot even operate in that particular society. So making them liable is going to be difficult because they will come to the court and say, for instance, they've tried, that was what they came up with in the issue of the Sokoto case I mentioned, the states where telecommunications were shut down, that the government approached us and reminded us of Section 45 of the Nigerian Constitution that states that in the respect of public safety, public health, public morality. And this is an issue that is going to affect the public safety. And then, of course, in some instances, they also bring the order of a court, the court granting them that particular order to go ahead and shut down. So when they present it to the telecommunications company, the telecommunications company has no other choice but to respect the order of the court. So one of the problems that will bedevil the entirety of Africa is if we do not have independent judiciary. If you do not have independent judiciary, it will always be a problem because they can approach any judge, get whatever order that would be in the interest of the politicians and not really about the people. So that's one of the questions I wanted to answer. I think
Thank you. Any reflections on the other questions raised by Abdissa, Elias, Haptamu, and Dr. Asrat also? I think,
Mesenbet, if you allow me, maybe I think one of the things that we really have to continue discussing thoroughly is that the duty of the government to maintain peace and leave internet uninterrupted at all times. I think this is the easiest excuse for many governments, to shut internet down. I think we have to see two important things here. First, theoretically, it might be correct, easy communication, not only through internet, easy communication through any other means might communicate for violence, might contribute for violence to escalate, not only in the internet, but we have to be clear, how much is internet contributing for escalation of violence. This is not something well established. It's simply theoretical. Whenever people are in a situation that they can easily communicate, then within an environment of violence, then that will escalate. This is more theoretical. But at the same time, we have to bear in mind the same easy communication is important in a violent environment as well, to save lives. I think this was what Moderator was trying to make a point, during a conflict. So still easy and open communication is necessary. So what I would say is, if there has to be internet shut down, again, I'm not taking any position, but if there has to be an absolute need for internet shutdown, the government should take all the necessary measures to mitigate the adverse effect. In effect, this will lead us to talk about or to conclude that it should be well regulated. It doesn't have to be arbitrary. After all, first we have to make sure that the amount of violence does it necessitate the internet shutdown, the proportionality. Someone was mentioning the very unfortunate incident of shutting down internet to prevent leaking exams, national exams in Ethiopia. It's really disturbing, you know, if you have to go down to this level to legitimize an act of internet shutdown. It's really worrying, you know. So this kind of exercise has to be done. But someone was also asking about, you know, the global trend. I really don't think we have to, especially in countries where the democratic culture is so weak. I don't think we have to speak on the relevance or the appropriateness of internet shutdown. Instead, we have to speak more on the regulation aspect. You know, in our legal system, we don't have any general human rights limitation clause, as Dr. Mesenbet remembers very well. We had some attempt. We have made some attempt to introduce that general limitation clause in legislation, which is not probably that appropriate for this kind of limitation in cyber crimes law. Otherwise, it's almost arbitrary when the government decides to shut down, shut internet down.
Thank you, thank you, Dr. Maha. Maybe Brian, if you can reflect briefly on the rest of the questions.
Thank you very much. So let me start. I saw a comment touching on Vint. 3 or so weeks ago, there were celebrations here in London at the Royal Society, the 5th anniversary of the internet. And I think one of the things that Vint said when asked on what he would do differently if he had to reinvent the internet again, if he had that sort of opportunity, he said something about rebooting democracy on the internet. Huh? And democracy comes with regulations. We all know that. But what I really wanted to say is that when we are dealing with this issue of internet shutdown, we are better being a realist than idealist. We are better working with what we have in the real world that we live in. Now, I am very positive and very sure about this, that internet shutdowns are acknowledged the world over, globally. It's not a matter of rogue countries that really shut down the internet. It's something that governments do all over the world. That doesn't make it right, I agree. It's also some kind of policy tools, you know. Moji was challenging people here if we shut down society when there's a demonstration or some of these disturbances. I'm not sure whether it's me alone who think of this as very obvious and happening everywhere. I mean, look, we have curfew laws. The COVID experience is a dramatic one, eh? But I'm from a country actually where when there are demonstrations, the military, not even the military, those that are in government, they can even announce that for the next 48 hours, we don't want people moving around, those kind of things. I'm just giving them as an example of offline examples. And COVID is a dramatic example. Well, COVID is something else, but it's akin to something like that. What I wanted to invite colleagues here is the issue of acknowledging internet shutdowns as a reality happening globally, and then also inviting you at the same time that being a multi-stakeholder issue, we then want to agree on a sort of framework, policy framework that given the reality of internet shutdowns, what sort of acceptable frameworks can we have within which this sort of emergency measure can happen? How do we govern internet shutdowns? And I think that at the table where we then meet as different stakeholders to discuss this issue of internet governance, when we then approach as different stakeholders and declare that no, there can never be any proportionality in terms of shutting down the internet and the wrongs it kind of seeks to redress, we probably lose each other. We will be starting on shaky ground, perhaps at some level, because even those who shut internet, they don't work with complete information. Those who make policies, they usually work with very inadequate information, and it's actually guesswork, and you really want to avert some kind of emergency, and you are groping at possible solutions, And those who actually argue against these kind of measures, they also do not have adequate information. I know for sure those who declare that there can never be any proportionality, they cannot adduce policy evidence to say this is the evidence we have. Whatever they are doing is also some kind of, some groping up in the darkness. But there's a need to meet with the governments at some level, So instead of us again going down to suing specific people like the technos and all that, we then want as stakeholders in this to come up with some frameworks. When we challenge technos, we want to challenge them within a framework. We want to say that, okay, you had a lawful authority, and we need to determine that lawful authority from a specific office in government to shut down the internet. Did that telco act within the powers? Did they also, government can actually give a legitimate request for a particular telco to shut down the internet. The telco itself can be very overzealous and overdo it or even underdo it, that sort of thing. So I think it comes down to issue of coming up with a governance framework. So the starting point, before we even get to the litigation stage, we need a very clear framework that says under these circumstances, we might want to have an internet shutdown. These are the people with the authority to order such a shutdown. These are the actors who can pull out the plugs in what circumstances, and we limit their powers and all that to facilitate that sort of thing. So I agree with Mekanon when he really speaks on the issue of some kind of framework. But there's some sort of fundamentalism that I think we tend to lose each other with those that are in government. When we declare that, no, this is right from the start, there's no way this can go the other way. I just wanted to emphasize on that aspect that no, there's a lot of relativity in this. And when we approach it by way of fundamental declarations, we just lose each other. We must emphasize on having frameworks and holding those who have the responsibility. That is acknowledged everywhere to shut down the internet in particular circumstances, to act within confined, frameworks. I wanted to emphasize on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian, for that reflection and intervention. I think we are a little behind schedule, obviously, because the topic is also very interesting. So unless there are any additional questions, and I think there are, I think, two maybe questions, new questions in the Q&A session. In the Q&A session box, what practical solutions does internet society have in case of unlawful internet shutdowns? I'm seeing those, Dr. Asrat, from the Q&A session. For example, enabling a free satellite service when the government shuts down. Well, that's going to be very challenging as well. Second, my other worry is issues related to garbage internet content platforms pushed to the global south, developing countries. Children are using platforms like TikTok, general unlawful addictive content that kills their future. Where do you stand on this? So these are very important questions. The first question is basically, can we use a satellite, for example, connection, VPN, other means of circumventing internet shutdowns, and how do we respond to that? The second is, how do we deal with abusive content, let's say, for example, TikTok, I go to my sister's house, I don't have my kids, but my niece and my nephews, they snatch my phone to watch TikTok. It's very addictive, and you get worried, what can be done. It may be related with, of course, content moderation and regulation rather than internet shutdowns. But if you have something to say, maybe Moji, Brian, or Amma, I will give you a chance also.
Yeah, my problem is, we understand. I mean, this platform, as it has all the positive aspects, it has its own bad sides. But my problem is, I don't think we should raise all these bad sides of the platform while we discuss internet shutdown. We have to resort, or we have to find out other, avenues to manage all those negative aspects of internet through awareness, extensive awareness raising, and I think there are some new technologies coming, that can filter. For instance, the technical people can help me. For instance, I have control on my children's communication. I can see what they are watching or what they are doing with that platform. So it is by no means internet shutdown should come first, in our mind when we think of all these bad sides of the platform. We have to resort to the different other alternatives to mitigate. I'm not sure if we can, prevent 100%, the disadvantage. But what we can do is to mitigate using different mechanisms.
Thank you, Atwama. I think that's a good response.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I need to add to that. Okay, so I've noticed something that is happening in the 21st century. It seems that parents are comfortable divesting their responsibility and asking governments to regulate every aspect of their lives. It shouldn't be happening. So I totally agree with Ameha, right? I hope I got that. That what we need in this age is more of digital literacy. A lot of people have their phones, especially if you look at people in the villages, they just have these Android phones and they use it because they feel, it's in the internet. Yeah. But the people are not being educated enough. So they need more education. And who is basically responsible for educating people on not infringing other people's rights is the government. And so that should be one measure that should be intensified. If you want to intensify advocacy and campaign, put government on pressure and say, use your institutions to educate the people on using your social media platforms responsibly. And then parents should also do their part. Stop leaving everything, stop delegating your responsibility to the government and saying, my daughter is 7 years and she'll be 8 in September. I refuse her from touching my phones. Anytime she does that, I collect it back from her and say, you can't use it now. No. And one thing I've done to monitor myself and to also discipline myself is I do not post a picture on any platform, on any social media platform. You cannot see my child. You can't see I want to give her that respect that when she's 18 years old, she can decide for herself what she wants to do. That is how families can protect and prevent their children getting into online violence. And, so please, you as parents do your part and then put government under pressure. Use your institutions to educate people on responsible platforms and not shorten that.
Yeah, I think that captures, I think, also, in public regulation, there are always alternatives, If exams are being leaked, why do you have to shut the internet? Improve your security. Somebody's leaking it. Digital security. There are so many ways that we can deal with the problems that we are facing, whether it's children's content in TikTok or others. So we should not seek a very simple but very problematic solution of just shut it down when we have a host of other alternatives to explore. And I think that's what makes internet shutdown very tragic, because even if it's a security or other issue, I am sure there are other ways of addressing the problem than opting for internet shutdowns. And I think that's a good comment you mentioned.